Anyways, I hope we brought you a little bit of happiness. James May. Alrighty. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Full Metal Cast post HTA weekend. Me and four of the fellow boys and local boys around here made the over 5.5 hour road trip to Pennsylvania, Ben Franklin Range, to train, network, and support a great cause that is human trafficking awareness. First time of us going, I'm trying to think, everyone that I went with have been on the show. So Demo, famously our DEI hire, our Making This Podcast an Affirmative Action podcast. He joined us. Cry Cowboy himself joined us. Quad, our resident Sparky, our electrician, joined us. And another individual who goes by Rizzle, who is completely off of social media, good for him, also joined us. All of us sort of hunkered down in a Airbnb in the middle of fucking nowhere in the woods of Pennsylvania. I mean, this place was so secluded. Every time you pulled into the driveway, you saw like 5 or 6 sets of eyes, even more in some cases, staring back at you, glaring in the headlights, and you see deer scatter. I mean, you were in the middle, truly, of nowhere, where we were staying, at least about 30 minutes from the range. But as always, just an awesome time. Trying to think, I took a communications class focusing more so on like pace plans, radios. I also took a handgun development course and a carbine course, all of which were great. I'll make sure to list, the names of the individuals and the groups who taught the class. I am very tired and also very emotional as I just finished the final Grand Tour special that Clarkson, May, and Hammond will ever do together. Serious bummer, obviously, for those who also grew up watching them, who were influenced by them, and they got me into cars originally. So I have to thank them a lot for my hobbies, and who I am today. Honestly, just watching them, it obviously influenced me as I grew up, and how I acted, what I was into, and whatnot. So frazzled, to say the least. But got there late on Friday night and was up bright and early Saturday morning, obviously. Got there, classes, check-in started at 7, safety brief started at 8:20, and classes started shortly after that. Took the comms class first, which was very interesting, taught by Everyday Citizen Tactical is who taught that course. Very enlightening, and it really helped condense the just infinite amounts of knowledge on the internet and on many Reddit threads when one is going about researching radios and which radios they should get for which use case, the differences, the pros, the cons, frequencies, bands, and just in scenarios, which is actually very interesting as well. UHF, HF, VHF, which use cases are best. What might one group want, a certain type of radio for in a pace plan? Where might the radio fall in the pace plan? So on and so forth. And I'll preface everything I speak about HTA with sort of what I started, the very first episode of this channel with, and that is I am not ex-military law enforcement, very proudly not affiliated with the state and very much a dirty civilian, but I will also never tell you what you should do in a gear sense or in a training sense. I will only ever tell you what works for me. And I'll always try to sort of stick by that, because regurgitating class information doesn't make me an expert, doesn't give me, or it doesn't really empower me to tell somebody what they should do, right? I'm simply going to share my experience, share my knowledge that I've gained from who I would consider to be experts, or more of experts than I am in these fields, and hopefully some helpful information gets passed on. But for the radio course, we didn't get dogged on, or rather I was in there with Baofeng as well as another gentleman. One individual wasn't in didn't have a radio at all, actually, as they just got caught up in the absolute shitstorm that is researching radios. And they were hoping to just sort of glean some knowledge. But across the board, we were it was, again, the very first class of the HTA event, and it was very small. There was only there's only 5 of us total in this class, which is very cool. To have sort of that sort of specialized attention in such a class like that, learning from someone who, builds radio systems, builds comms plan, is sort of the comms expert to his group. Didn't get dogged on for Baofangs, right? The accessibility is what makes them so incredible, and the utility really can't be denied in that sense, and their availability is awesome as well, right? For somebody who just wants to get their feet wet and get familiar with radio, I think the cheapest pack is below $30. I think the one I have is $35 because it had extended battery life and other sort of accessories that came with it. But you can scoop a Baofeng for sub 30, which is pretty great, especially if you have like a family member or family members who, maybe want to have means of hearing from you or other people if, they lose cell service or something crazy happens, but they're not really going to take the time and the effort to really read into and learn the operations of a really expensive digital radio, or just, anything beyond a walkie-talkie style sort of disposable handheld radio. Thus, the Baofeng, those 2 use cases, just being able to toss them out to anybody and being a great training tool and sort of a stepping stone, makes the Baofeng incredibly powerful and useful. And he acknowledged that, which is very cool. We didn't get dogged on for it, which is what I was sort of worried about. He went on to say that he uses a Motorola XT5000, I think is what it was. They're on the page. They sell them in bundles, actually. Get everything you need to get started if you would like to. So go check out ECT. They do much more than comms, but this class was just focused on comms. But he mentioned that, it may be more difficult now. I think COVID really helped ramp this up. But at one point, you were able to sort of go on eBay and find the old Motorola XT5000s or whatever their X5000s or whatever they are for, 180, 150. You can buy an extended battery and then a charger separate. You can spec it out and get everything you need to get it up and running minimally. You still need extra batteries and chargers and whatnot for sub 300, which is pretty cool. Not so much the case, or rather it's very hard to do that now with the increase in popularity of that radio. So that was sort of the path I'm thinking about going next with radios, as I sort of look to expand me and my group's capabilities. I sort of want to be the designated comm guy in state. We have a few people in our group chat who are super into comms networks but are outside of the state, and so I think for now I'm gonna try to get as autistic as I can with radios. But digital, after sort of going through the class, digital appears to be superior, and the route that I'd want to take, whether that's DMR or P25, which are sort of the 2 main types of digital radios. P25, mostly you're going to have to go use like surplus if you're a civilian and you want access to the P25s. DMR is a little more consumer friendly. You can just buy it new on the open market, and also programming it is is not as complicated. With the P25s, you get a lot of features and code and software that's really more so designed for, first responders and military. So it might be a little harder to navigate and sort of sift through all that extra stuff. But either way, digital for sure is going to be the route we take. And the one thing that really, and obviously I'm not saying to make the jump now and make that investment of a $300+ radio now, but it is something that's going to be added to the list of priorities, of acquisitions that I'm going to want. And wherever that lands, I'll obviously have to write it out, look at my kit, look at my needs outside of that. I know I need more medical training and more medical supplies. I have a couple of IFACs and a first aid kit that is definitely lacking that I know needs more. So that's obviously at the top of the list. You can use your HSA for that too, I've learned. So I need to lever that more responsibly, actually. But as we were discussing the different types of radios, analog and digital, and there's unencrypted and encrypted digital, specifically in this example. He might have the video on his YouTube channel or his Instagram. I'll try to find it, and if it's there, I'll make sure to drop it in after this. But it was an audio clip that showed what an analog sort of reception of a transmission sounded like, what a digital reception sounded like, and what it sounded like on all the different types of radio. So analog signal, you're going to hear it. If you've used the Baofeng, if you use like a normal sort of cheapo walkie-talkie, it comes through. It's not the cleanest voice, but you can hear it.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So digital to digital, is much more crisp. It's much more clear. It's nice.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Analog or digital to analog. So if you are a Baofeng and you tune into the same frequency as a digital radio, an unencrypted digital radio, it's just going to come across as static. The analog radios can't sort of process that digital signal properly. And this is something that, after the class, I was sort of sharing this with our group. That one day where the group all gathers, I don't know how many episodes ago as I talked about it, we gathered and we all programmed our Baofengs, because 6, 7, 8 of us all have Baofengs, using a repeater book query and chirp to add into our memory channels different repeater stations that were established in the state for different means, whether it be emergencies, weather, traffic, whatever it is. A lot of those ended up just being straight static. And where we were, actually, we were elevated. We were on a rooftop. Several of us had enhanced antennas, myself included, and nobody was getting a signal, but others would come through perfectly fine. But a good handful were just straight static. And when we went back and we looked, our electrician, had pointed out that I believe he observed a lot of the state repeaters had transitioned to digital, I believe were his words. So that makes a lot of sense now that I think back on it. So for that reason, digital would be very nice, as you can receive analog and digital signals, just in the capability. But also, it's not encryption, but like if you are up against somebody with Baofengs, which he said is actually a pretty common practice among a lot of the protests or riots of like the COVID era, like BLM with Antifa. Mostly Antifa, he said, it's a common practice now where they will have several leaders within a group holding Baofengs and monitoring 1 or 2 frequencies each of counter protesters or other sort of popular groups that would show up and counter protest Antifa to see if they could get a jump on their whereabouts, their plans. So something to think about there, that anyone with the Baofeng may be able to listen into your communications. And should it be like maybe you're not in a city to riot or counter protest per se, maybe it is sort of an emergency situation and you are trying to move water or food or bodies from one place to another. A bad actor or bad actors with a Baofeng could just intercept that analog signal. Should you also be using a Baofeng, and they may be able to determine your location, what you have on you, and they may decide that what you have is of value, and they can act on that since they have that information very easily. Digital, obviously, it adds a little bit of security because it cuts out anyone with an analog radio from listening. However, anyone with a digital radio can listen in just as easily as if it were analog to analog. Then obviously encryption is king. But it's another layer of cost, complexity. That's obviously the dream, though, is that you and your team, your community, are able to sort of expand into that encrypted radio realm, as that's the ultimate security. But digital to start, I think, is going to be the next step for us out of the Baofengs, whether that be the Motorola. I don't know. I'm going to do a little more research into P25 versus DMR. And I think I'm going to go DM ECT just to make sure I'm making the right decision, to really get the pros and cons down right again. And it's not really the complexity of P25 that deters me from, just straight up selecting it as the choice. As I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube videos or pre-written sort of software code to help me program it properly. I just want to make sure that, bang for buck, we're making the right choices. And one thing that he did say is that as you're creating a comms plan, as you're going about speccing out you and your immediate team's kit, you want to make it scalable. So that it's just a matter of fact, maybe of buying another bulk charger, batteries, and it's not this huge, you have to change gears for different radios and whatnot if you bring people in, or maybe if you have to work with another team, you don't have to change everything. You just have to change maybe your add little components here or there. Not entirely feasible in every scenario, but just something to keep in mind as you go about making these purchases to make it scalable, or as scalable as possible, because we've all, I think, run into that trap where we get excited and we start, building out a rifle or building out a plate carrier, only to decide, oh shit, this isn't what I really want. I maybe want to rock this sort of placard, or maybe I want to rock these sort of mags, and now I have to replace, 7 other things on the kit, on the rifle, whatever it is. It's a much larger investment to make incremental changes that way. So thought that was interesting to share as well. So digital better, DMR, P25, make it scalable. What else? Option number 1 in the PACE plan is always going to be cell phones, he said. Rarely is it ever not going to be cell phones. However, when we were discussing, why might someone want to get into radios as sort of the introduction to the course, he's saying that there's something called FirstNet, or there's other services similar to FirstNet, depending on which cell phone carrier you have or network provider you have, in that in cases of emergency or natural disaster, cell phone service, internet service, data, whatever it is, can be shut down so that it is strictly, reserved for first responders to prevent extra noise in the airways, to prevent, speeds being slower, reliability being sort of dialed back for first responders. So that's a very real possibility. If something happens, you may not be able to use your phone to communicate. Maybe Wi-Fi doesn't work either, and someone's not able to communicate via that method. Then, it's time to start looking into, is it radio time? It likely is if you can't use your phone. So that's why the importance of radios needs to be discussed, because, again, just because it hasn't happened maybe here in where we are, doesn't mean that it can never happen, especially with everything going on in the world, from the conflicts to this upcoming election that has been, everyone's sort of putting it out there into the airwaves, myself included, that it's going to get very messy, it's going to get very interesting, it's going to get very loud. I mean, the former president has had now 2 attempts on his life, and I may discuss that. I know news is still coming out about that guy, but more on that later. So yeah, comms is very good. ECT, Everyday Citizen Tactical, check them out for comms. The guy's very knowledgeable. They sell comms kits as well, should that be within your budget and your interest. But ask him questions. He's a great dude. Awesome class. And myself and everyone in there, straight off the rip, said this is the area we lack most in. We're here basically just to be a sponge and to soak it up and to take it in. And very glad I did. So I got a good little notebook filled with my little scratch notes, and we'll be going about looking at digital radio options for me, my team, my family, hopefully soon here. So the classes were split up into, I believe there were 6 hours a pop, or 4 hours. Yeah, 4 hours a pop. So first class went till 1 p.m., lunch break, and then straight to the second class, which was handgun development, taught by RAS group. Very, very, it was excellent pistol class. I actually didn't know the guy was a cop who taught it. He didn't really say it off the bat, and if he did, I'm sorry. Maybe I was zoning out in the intro. And the reason why I never would have guessed he was a cop, because he shoots competition. He shoots very well. He doesn't talk like a cop either. But I mean, if you are going to be a cop, I guess you might as well shoot the best and take it very seriously, because goddamn, this guy can go fast and he can fucking shoot. He ran every drill with us. He ran it extremely well, and he did an excellent job at explaining the concepts and demonstrating and I guess teaching it to us in a very unique way. And I'm going to focus really on one aspect of it, because I've taken a pistol class. I study every video, every article, everything from, Ben Stoger to stuff in pews to, the super fast, cool pistol comp guys you see about grip, about vision, about dry fire drills, about all this. And I had gone into it with the belief that, in my case, my right hand operating the trigger, is there simply to operate the trigger, and you want to do nothing with that hand whatsoever, because any additional tension, any additional focus will just increase the possibility of you using or triggering, for lack of a better word, the 3 fingers beneath your trigger finger, throwing off your shot, sending it low left, typically if you're a right-handed shooter. So I went in, ran it, was not hitting A zone consistently as we, backed up from the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 yards and ramped up speed. It started blooming. It started looking a little ugly, leaning more to the left, which I thought was strange because I was focusing so hard on making that right hand just dead and using my left hand to fully support that. We ran diagnostic, the first couple drills, sort of look at everyone's target, see what needs to be focused on as the group, and on an individual level, discuss some concepts, go back out, put it to place, bring it back, add a new concept, So grip was obviously the first focus. And one thing that he taught, and again, this is not me telling you what you should do. That's not what I'm here for. I'm simply sharing what worked for me in my case, was and the way that he taught the concept, I guess, or the way he said it or worded it was different than how I absorbed it and applied it. What I ended up changing through his teaching, through his demonstration, he actually demonstrated it through like a handshake and how he holds the gun, is that rather than me gripping the pistol any harder with my trigger hand, my right hand, I simply adjusted the angle at which my wrist was, engaging once I'd punched out and acquired a sight picture. It's hard to explain. I'm not really sure I'm going to be able to really demonstrate it. Maybe he has videos, and you can definitely DM him. He's a super helpful, super nice guy. The only thing I really changed was sort of rolling my wrist almost like forward and not like completely down, but the wrist was definitely at a more downward angle with the right hand, not to the point where like the nose of the gun is dipping down, but it helps not only control the recoil and return the dot to center faster and keeping the dot more up and down than veering right and left as I was, ripping off shots. It helped to almost deactivate the bottom three fingers even more based on the angle at which I was throwing my wrist down as I punched the gun out. And I know I'm not really giving it justice, with that explanation. It's just the best way I can describe it. And yes, you cannot squeeze hard enough with your left hand, interlacing like the fingers sort of in between your knuckles of your firing hand, but crush it. Your fire control group hand should be hurting. You should be trying to break the frame of the gun essentially. And holy shit, that one little tweak of the wrist angle almost with my trigger hand made a world of difference. And so much so, I can brag about this, right? Me and Quad and I, actually, proper English, excuse me, ended up winning the two competitions we ran at the end of the class. The class probably had 10, 9, maybe people in it. And I can say that for those of you who are fans of this podcast, those of you who have supported us, take great pride in who you put your chips in, as you are now listening to the best handgun shooting podcast, at least from the state of Michigan that I know, that participated in that shooting competition at the HTA Range Day 2024. We have some really cool RAS patches to show for it. I'll snag a picture of one as well. Quad actually beat the instructor in his drill. His drill was there were 3 targets set up, sort of staggered in like a step style. One at 10, one at 15, one at 20. Your job was to put 2 shots into each target, reload, and then 2 shots again, going back in the reverse order in which you engage the first target. Quad scored a hit factor of 504 or something like that on that drill. The instructor hit like a 4 or something because he had a malfunction. His first malfunction of the day happened to be in that drill. Instructor still came second. And the second drill that I won was at 20 yards, engaged 2 reduced A-zone size gongs is how I would describe them. As fast as you can, just 1 shot on each, bang, bang. I did it in 304 seconds, which actually just beat Demo, our DEI hire, who had like 318 or something. So you're listening to some great handgun shooters, honestly. So that was very cool and really, really awesome to, take the patches, and we get competitive. It was funny. Quad was telling me when we were walking back to the car after we both won, we both drove together there. He had said, before I went up and ran that drill, I turned the music on in my ear pro. I got locked in. I was like, dude, I was like Jordan flu game locked in. I was like breathing drills. I don't think I blinked. I was just, I didn't look at anybody. I wasn't hearing anybody. I was just completely, zoning everything out and getting, ready to go out there and kill it. I fucked that drill up. And I'm not saying I would have won, but I fucked that sort of step drill up with my reload. The first time a mag never dropped clear through my gun, I got caught up, and I tried shaking it twice instead of just ripping it out after it didn't immediately drop. So that was on me. Otherwise, shot a very clean drill, 1 C zone. The rest were all A's. But that's what fucked me up. But I got him back in the gong, so we're good. So the pistol thing, the grip with the wrist, that was the one that was like the golden goose for me in that, if you will. The thing I learned that I applied that made a world of difference, that I'm going to be trying to incorporate and focus on and drill, and really sort of ingrain that in my brain, because of how noticeable and how quick the difference was in the results on paper. So maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't. Again, I'm simply sharing with you what worked for me. I'm not squeezing the gun harder with my right hand. It's simply the angle at which my right hand was engaging with the pistol as I punched out is what helped me so much. Quickly circling back, 2 things. The pistol class, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. As part of the class, yes, he broke down grip first, then vision. Part of driving home the point of vision was taping over everyone's dots. Now, I have seen this technique, I've heard of this technique, I've been encouraged to even try this technique by many of the individuals that I follow and subscribe to for handgun shooting, sort of curriculum, tips, tricks, whatever you want to call it. However, never did it, not because it was too much work or it was too hard to do. I have plenty of duct tape and blue painter's tape. It was just, that I just never took the time, the effort to face sort of the noise, the embarrassment of actually doing it. However, after doing it, it turns out I shoot mo better with my dot occluded, taped over, than without. I found that it forces me to just focus on what I am shooting at rather than getting caught up in staring at or losing focus and looking at where the dot is. So much so that I kept it like that from Saturday night, won the gong competition drill that we shot with it occluded. I shot the other drill with it occluded too. Again, lost that because I fucked up my reload. And also got 1 C zone. But I also kept it occluded for the counter-terror carbine course the next day, and that was mostly carbine focused, but we also shot with a handgun, and I was very happy with my performance with it occluded. I sort of found that increase in sort of performance carried over with it occluded. So very cool. I'm going to continue shooting occluded and training with that, and eventually taking it off so that I'm not just used to shooting with a completely covered dot at all times, excuse me. So I wanted to add that. We go home. We rest. We pay $60-something for 3 pizzas. I don't know. It was good pizza, but fuck, it was very expensive. We got me and Rizzle, the guy who's not on social media, who hasn't been on the podcast yet, but is very active in our group chat. We ended up sharing a room. Like, there's a large room with 2, I think, twin or full-size beds in it. We crashed in that room. And the first night, actually, I got 0 fucking sleep. We lay down. We're chilling. He rolls over in his bed, and then all of a sudden I hear like a scratching on the outside of the wall, just like an animal. Like I've had squirrels and raccoons in my attic at home. I know what that sounds like, but it's very much like the outside wall of the house, like sort of behind like where our heads are, against the wall. He rolls over, it scratches. I go, oh, that's weird. Okay. I roll over. It's now scratching on my side of the room, like behind my headboard. I'm like, strange coincidence. I roll over again really quickly just to see if it happens again. It happens again. So now I just remain motionless. I don't breathe. I'm like, this is a really weird coincidence if the scratching is tied to like movement or sound. Rizzle moves the sheets or his legs or something, it scratches again. And it's moving up and down the wall behind both of our heads. And it's driving me fucking nuts. I don't know what it is. Like the window's open. I don't see anything. It's not making any other noise other than scratching. I sleep all of 2 hours the first fucking night. So that was great. That was really awesome. Second night, we were eating around the fire pit outside. We're eating pizza. We're smoking cigars. Which cigars did I smoke, actually? What was the first one? I can't remember. It's not coming to me. The second night, though, I had an Avo Nicaragua, which was stupendous, actually. But anywho, maybe the first one will come back to me. Drinking beer, cigars, crushing pizza, having a fun time. We were looking at different IR lasers and illuminators that we had under some tubes, which is really cool. Comparing. I brought my rifle out because jokingly I was like, if I see whatever is fucking scratching the side of the house, I'm going to turn it to fucking mist. Didn't see anything. We did a scan of the outside. I'm not seeing any scratch marks. I don't see what could possibly be against the wall doing it. Quad sort of pitched that it could be a bat because while we were out at the fire pit the first night, one flew like right past him, swooping down low. Maybe there's bats in the house. I don't know. But it happened the second night too. Thankfully, I was just so exhausted from the first day on the range that I just passed right out. Didn't really hear it much or pay much mind to it as I fell asleep. But whatever that thing was, that was definitely the low light of the trip. Packed up the Airbnb the next day, bright and early, hit the range. Had carbine. This one was very, very cool. And actually, let me make sure I get the carbine instructor's name right. Gray Fighter 1. Joe Fasanella is who taught it. And a very interesting dude. Guy who's done a lot of counterterrorism sort of protection and experience himself. I believe he's been on a couple of other podcasts where he's talked about his experience, what he's done. But the course is different than a normal carbine course because it went over recent sort of terrorist attacks, a lot of which focusing on the 2013 and 2015 attacks in France. The first one being at a soccer game. The second one being the Bataclan concert massacre. Both of which relevant in that he believes, or there was this individual, Joe's belief, that we are going to see sort of similar style attacks. Obviously, it's his hope that we do not, but given the immigration pattern, who's coming over and where they're going, it wouldn't be a surprise if we saw a similar style or scale attack. And the first one, the soccer stadium attack, is that after the terrorists went in, one of the cops in France ended up engaging one of the terrorists face to face, pulled out a service piece, and as he was trained to do, aimed for center mass, ripped off a couple shots, and kaboom, he struck the vest the terrorist was wearing, blew up the terrorist. Got a pat in the back because he was fine. He lived, everyone seemed to be fine, but the guy he just reduced to ash. And not much was really gleaned from that until 2015, 2 years later. The Bataclan event happened where several extremists ended up rushing into a venue, Bataclan, where a heavy metal concert was taking place. I'm not sure who was playing, actually. I am interested now to see who that is. Barricaded themselves in and killed hundreds, or maybe less than 200, but at least like 130, 150 something people, injured over 300 people. And that was before the French arrived, actually, to engage them. At the time, the French sort of order of operations was just to send a couple small teams with shields leading the way in and sort of hope for the best there. No night vision. It's all white light, old school sort of, stuff, hard-headed stuff. And so team engages at the front door or the door, whatever they try to enter in. Shield guy gets peppered so much with AK-47 fire. He says, nope, fuck this. And it just gets super ugly, super fast. The floor is just jelly at this point. People are slipping on blood and on brass. Really, really fucking ugly. End up setting off more suicide vests while engaging the terrorists within the venue. He sort of went in on the vest aspect a lot because, we train a lot to shoot A-zone. We aim for circuitry, which is obviously what you should do. But everything is sort of situational. We don't operate in always or nevers, right? This world really it's never really black or white. There's a lot of gray. And given how easily he went into how easily available and how easy it is to make the explosives used in their vests. If you or anyone operates like a salon where you have your license to cut hair or dye hair, you're able to buy the acetone, the rubbing alcohol, the peroxide, whatever it is, in the proper quantities to easily build the explosives that these assholes use. It's extremely accessible. And so he thinks, again, given the pattern of who's coming over, the ease of accessibility, of these sort of ingredients, for lack of a better word, for explosive vests. He said it's not really that much of a stretch to think that we're going to see that start to happen here. He hopes it doesn't, but it'd be good to sort of plan for it, was his idea. That being said, if vests become prevalent, the A zone may not be the best place to aim, depending on the situation. It might be a crowded area. You may just be maximizing the carnage should you strike that. And so we did a lot of pelvic girdle aiming and headshot aiming. And he said, we were shooting on a line for this course, and he would always call it the course of fire. We shot a reduced A zone. We shot a normal head box. We shot a pelvic girdle zone on the cardboard targets. And if he ever called out for, a pelvic shot, no matter how many it is, he said, ingrain it in your head to send a follow-up shot to the head. That's the entire point of the pelvic girdle shot, is to get them to stop moving, is to get them in a place where you can completely, turn the lights off, to hit some circuitry that isn't where a suicide vest might be. So that was very cool. That was very fun. That was very interesting. And it was a very high round count in a very short manner class. And he did that on purpose. He told everyone to bring your kit, rock as many mags as you can, wear everything. And you're out there on 90 plus degree heat, because we are on turf, so that's even hotter now, sweating our dicks off, running our guns. I'm running, my suppressed 12.5. And guns are getting very, very hot. And you see people without gloves getting very, very uncomfortable. I started without gloves. Gloves went on very, very quickly. I'm still going to get some heat tape or some sort of scales I can put around where my hand will be on that hand guard, because holy shit, it's very unpleasant to shoot that. I'm also going to be making some adjustments to the left side of my cummerbund, because the tourniquet pouch, of all things, to the left of my radio pouch, catches my sling if I am sort of dropping my rifle or moving it out of the way to operate my pistol, or if the sling is loose enough and I go to shoulder the rifle or bring it up to get a sight picture, I will feel it snagging and getting caught as well. It's not preventing me from shooting or getting a sight picture, but it's definitely in the way and I can feel it snagging. So a small tweak, but again, valuable information from running the course. So, finding a way to mitigate some heat on the rail. It's a slimmer rail, as well as moving that tourniquet pouch, as well as keeping in mind, because I do want to add a GP pouch on that side as well, to make sure that it's not going to interfere with me operating my rifle and the sling. I need a new leg strap for my True North Concepts holster adapter. We ran a drill at the end. It was almost like a relay race, which was really cool. So you shot from different positions, starting at prone, probably at 50 plus yards. Put 5 in the target, anywhere you want, preferably A zone. Run up to 25, reload, kneel, 5 more shots. Run up to 5 or 10, can't remember. 5 with pistol, and then run back, and then the next guy can go. And another team's running this next to you on the other side of the range, so it's a race. So I believe when I was running back from the 5 to the 50, I popped the leg strap for the HSA, and it failed at the nylon at the C-clip. I can't remember if it was the male or the female end, but the nylon just it just snapped completely out of that sort of C-clip, which is unfortunate. So I'll look into different options for a leg strap for the True North Concepts HSA, or is it MSA? Yeah, MHA, Modular Holster Adapter. That's what it is. Yeah, wrong acronym. So that was also good information. Again, rather break it there. Had a mag issue while shooting suppressed with the 12.5 as well. It was an older window mag. I believe UTG made them. I bought 10 or so of them when they were on sale for like $7 or $8 a pop. Threw that away. It failed me once when we first started the day. Chucked it down the field and it just stayed there. But good things all around that we learned through the class. Didn't have an issue keeping height over bore in mind, which is awesome. After taking the Orion class, that's sort of been ingrained in my brain now. Really, really fun and cool class. And that guy, Gray Fighter Joe, some excellent stories, some just wild experiences. In fact, he actually shot down a drone while he was working with Secret Service very recently for Biden, which is very cool. Interesting thoughts regarding the Patriot Act and stop and frisk, though, given his law enforcement background, obviously. But he's got some other thoughts as well about the election. But I won't speak for him. There are things in there that he said that I wouldn't share out of respect, just, sharing my experience with him. All in all, a great class, though. All in all, a great fucking weekend. Honestly, I'm very excited to go again next year. My goal is to bring 2 more people next year. The guys at HTA want everyone to bring 2 more people, obviously, to raise more money and make it a bigger deal. And given how incredible this year was, I do it for my own selfish reasons, honestly, and to help the people around me, while also helping them, of course. But it's actually something that I'm going to be doing every year and bringing more and more people, because it's an absolute incredible experience. I cannot recommend it enough. So I need to take a drink though. Pour myself a glass of, what is this? Noah's Mill, made by the same people who make Willet. I believe we're in the same distillery. We got a little bit of this left, so I'm gonna work through this. I haven't drinking hard liquor in a long time. That's good though. A lot of beer this weekend. Oh boy, Pennsylvania's got some weird beer laws. Like, you can only buy a certain amount of ounces per person. So like, we can only buy 12 or 15 packs at a time. Very strange. We had plenty though. There was 5 of us after all. But yeah, an odd law there in Pennsylvania. What next? I guess. All right, I'm gonna do the grand tour. We'll do something a little different here, off topic. Man, I don't know if you grew up or are familiar with Top Gear at all. I'd imagine, most of the audiences that listen to this, given the demographic. But I think you know how significant it is. Top Gear being what it was a cultural phenomenon in the U.S. It was a British show that blew up here as well and influenced so many people to be passionate about cars. And I know it because I was, and a lot of the people I grew up around were as well, and they watched it just as religiously as I did. And it was such a great show because of how pure it was. Now, there were times in the show where the BBC made James, Jeremy, and Hammond sort of, do whatever they wanted, and the studio needed their way to sort of appeal to the masses. But the reason why people fell in love with it was for the passion and the knowledge that the 3 hosts had for cars. That's what made it such a fucking success. And it just helped that they were excellent friends and great entertainers and awesome people just to watch and to follow. But the show itself was just devoid of crap. It was devoid of everything that makes TV and movies and social media just garbage. It was devoid of politics, except for when they were absolutely dogging and just ragging on the British government for implementing stupid fucking laws and rules on the road and making cars worse. And that's what made it great. That's part of what made it so fucking spectacular. The nonsense, for the most part, that's going on in the world stayed out of it, and they made light of everything. They joked about a lot of things, but their love and their passion for the subject matter came through, and it was infectious, and it was addictive to watch. And there's so many great quotes in this last episode. Jeremy mentioned one that I was going to use as the quote, actually, about, doing something for the last time, and how most people are never aware that you're doing something for the last time. But, he was very much aware that this was the end, and that he will forever remember this thing that he was doing, to not spoil it, as it being his last one. It was very prolific, and it was very cool. But as they were nearing the end, the quote that I did use was from James May. They're nearing the end, and I won't spoil it, even though a lot of things are sort of in the title, and you may have seen clips of it already. They're nearing the end. He was sort of reminiscing on prior things they did while on Top Gear, and how he'll be going about his life down the road, and he'll see little things around the house, from his trips, and he'll just, sort of be brought back to the moments that he's had, while doing his job with, his 2 friends. And he gets quiet, and you can tell he's getting very emotional, a little choked up while he's driving, and then, he sort of snaps back, and he just, anyways, I hope we brought you a little bit of happiness. And that I kept it together pretty well. I didn't lose it there. I felt the emotions start building up at that moment, though. Um, I was like, fuck, that they did just that. The joy I had after school watching Top Gear, when I was in high school is when I first got into it, watching the reruns. I set the DVR to record every episode. I watched every single Grand Tour special. I mean, even the ones I couldn't watch when I had cable when I moved out of the house, I went back on different streaming services to watch all the ones I missed. I went back to make sure I saw them all. I've rewatched them all. I'm going to rewatch them all again. And that's exactly what they did. It was just pure passion and love for cars. And I would say friends too, that made it such a success. It was free of just nonsense. And that's something I'm going to try to remember as, I go about doing this thing, as I go about doing whatever, and that pureness of just love and passion for the game, for whatever it is that you're doing, you can feel it. And the second anything else sort of creeps in, the second it starts to become about anything else, people know. You're not fooling anybody. Anyone who is higher than a room temperature IQ is going to fucking know. And they did bring me a great amount of joy and a great amount of happiness. And I'll be damned though, at the end, if I didn't feel a couple tears rolling down, as pathetic as that sounds, to know that is the end, to know that there will never be anything like it, to know that nothing has come before them and nothing will come after them that is that good, that could ever hold a candle to it, and that I had the honor and the pleasure to experience it, live, towards the end. Obviously, I wasn't tuned in when they first started 22 years ago, however long it was. Wasn't old enough to really be cognizant of it then. But being just able to experience that and to have that mold me and influence me the way that it did, for the better, I would say, despite it costing me so much money and so many sleepless nights and hours in the garage and pain and blood and sweat and tears over cars. It was everything, truly. I can't thank them, obviously they're not listening, but I absolutely would. I'd shake each of their hands individually, and I would thank them for giving me another crippling, dangerous, and expensive addiction. Just like bourbon, cigars, motorcycles, and guns, cars is also on that list, thanks to them mostly. So if you haven't watched it, watch it. It's a good send off, with pretty cool cars too. Actually, I will say, but it's cool to see them end it the right way. It's not going to get, at least I hope, it's not going to get milked like a Disney franchise would. I don't think Amazon's going to do what the BBC did. I don't think they're going to try to fill their shoes and call it the same thing. If they do, I think that'd be really stupid, because these three sent it out the right way. They didn't try doing it for as long as they could to make the most money, to stay in the limelight while they're dying of old age and deteriorating and not able to do what they used to do at the speed at which they used to do it. They knew it was time. It ran its course. They felt it losing steam, and they went out on top. And there's something to be said about ending anything like that. We've all known a show that's gone too long, or that ended really fucking poorly, and it was super strong up to that point, that it ended out of nowhere. I'm looking at you, Sons of Anarchy and The Sopranos, look at any Disney fucking franchise that's getting ran to the ground. And Amazon, I haven't watched The Rings of Power, but if I had to take a guess, it's probably bullshit. They knew it was time, and they went out with dignity. They went out on top, and for that, they will forever be immortalized, and they've earned it. But enough about that. I'm sorry. That's just a huge part of my influence, my life. Even as an adult, as those specials came out, I always set a reminder. I'd come right home from work in the gym, and I would turn that shit on, and I'd watch it no matter what it was, no matter what was going on. It was just good. It just felt good. Anywho, Trump got, I don't know what's going on there, man. This is a bit of a loaded one. And it's weird that, this whole guy is a very strange scenario. This guy, from what I understand, I guess this jackass. I don't really remember his name. He just looks like he's a vegan or on a permanent hunger strike. Took a shot at him from over, what was it, a couple hundred yards away with an AK. I remember seeing a picture of the alleged setup and spot where he took the shot. I can't remember what the optic was. I think I heard it was scoped. It was scoped, I remember. He had ceramic plates in a bag, which is sort of like improvised body armor. He had several different ramblings about Trump on his Twitter by the sound of it. He has a published book that you can find on Amazon, actually, that appears to be very schizophrenic. Like QAnon level weirdness. But very pro Ukraine war, like give Ukraine everything, they need to win at all costs sort of thing. He got arrested for weapons of mass destruction, I saw. Gonna have to look into that one a little more. But again, once again, use whatever example you wish. Use the first shooting, which happened a mere couple of weeks ago, I guess. We can still probably measure that in weeks. It's probably not too awkward to say that number. Someone who really shouldn't have had access to a firearm. In fact, he got charged with, owning a firearm illegally after Florida grabbed him. But this is a guy who got accused of having weapons of mass destruction. How the fuck did he have a gun? And how could he get that close to President Trump? But again, to avoid sounding like a broken record, they can't keep you safe. It's impossible for them to keep you safe. They can't even keep safe an ex-president. It's impossible for them. So to hope and to pray and to have this ideal vision that if they just pass more laws and more restrictions, that nothing will ever happen, you're insane. That's just not how it works. That's never how it has worked. It just simply can't be the case. And you're watching it play out at the highest level again with an ex-president, and also he's also running for president again, and they can't seem to stop people from taking shots at him. So that's a really strange one. Can't wait to hear what more comes out of that. But this dude just seemed to be completely looned out. A very strange one, but still cool to see that law enforcement can't really keep your representatives safe. That's refreshing, at least, since they can't keep us safe. It's awesome to see some equal treatment for once in that regard. Anywho, the second thing, and I'll probably break this up, is I know I was very brief in talking about the second attempted assassination on the former president's life. A trend is beginning to emerge here where BlackRock appears to simply be recruiting really shitty vegetarian or vegan hitmen, it would seem. Just super enormous pussies who are really bad at shooting. However, if BlackRock is cool with political violence, then I think they would be very upset to learn that many of us find those terms acceptable and would be happy to meet them on that playing field. So very dangerous game being played by BlackRock, at least if it is true that this Booth or whatever the fuck his name was truly in a BlackRock ad. But that appears to be the case from what I've been seeing lately. A wild coincidence. I don't think it can possibly be a coincidence at this point. I mean, the stars aligning like that, it's not. I don't think it's physically possible. So throwing that out there, because that's just absolutely insane. Anyways, I'll move back to whatever I was saying the day before. I just had to add those two things in because I thought about them as I was going through the day. What else? What else happened? Oh, that's right. I sent myself some headlines that took place that I should probably cover while I'm here. Won't be a super long one. Trying to work on a shirt design or slap so that it can sort of be delivered before the election. Interesting Bloomberg article. I don't think I want to do that. Boeing workers went on strike. Forever hilarious. Awesome to see them continue to get fucked. Oh, Bloomberg ran another article. Trust in most U.S. institutions has withered, and across the board, from Congress to big business to newspapers, the presidency, the Supreme Court, the church or organized religion, the medical system, the military, and small business, trust has only declined over time. Looking at it from 73 to 24, obviously some spikes, but the trend is downward over the time from 73 to 24, except for a few here. And obviously, this is pitched as a really negative thing from Bloomberg, but very encouraging to people like us who know that some of the best things that can possibly happen are complete rejection of the system and looking to your own means or privatized means within your community to bettering the world around you. Instead of leaving it up to large corporations or the state or institutions of the state. Because, again, we've gotten here by doing just that. And so to assume that more of the same will make it better is the literal definition of insanity. That's a very encouraging article and very cool graphs to see. And I'll make sure to post that up as well. A little scattered end here. I swear I had something else to discuss, and maybe I do. Maybe I'll add something in post here. But really, this was just to sort of recap the HTA range day. I'm not paid by HTA or any of the training teams that were there. I am simply here to shill it without any benefit because it's an excellent cause and a huge, huge benefit to those who showed up to train and take advantage of that training. It's an awesome time. So whether you're in my group or not, and you want to come with us, let me know. Be more than happy to help set it up. With proper vetting, of course, because internet friends should be kept at arm's length until you take it out of the internet and you get nice and up close and personal to make sure they are who they say they are. And we've done that with everybody here, I'd like to think at least. But yes, HTA was everything and then more. So definitely look into it. If you haven't, go back, check out the pages that are set up, check out my posts, my stories. There's an awesome reel going around that Quad sent me, making fun of how guys don't take pictures whenever they go on trips or vacation because we're guys. And unfortunately, that couldn't be more true, as I took maybe 2 or 3 pictures. And it was really more so the landscape, nothing having to do with any of the classes, kit, or gear. So I don't have much to show for it. So I'm hoping Tacos Media, which is the account and the photographer that was there taking pictures, is going to have some shots of me and the group that I was with. You have to donate, I think, like an extra $10 to the cause to get access to the media, which is what I'll gladly do to flip through it. But didn't catch a lot. So that was really disappointing. My goal next year will definitely be to be in my phone a little more, I guess. I just hate being in my phone. And, if that's the reason why I didn't get footage or pictures, so be it. I'm fine with it. I try to not touch my phone as much as possible, especially when I'm traveling or doing something like that. I try to be as present and in the moment as much as I can be. So not much as far as visuals to go, unfortunately. So I do apologize for that. That's why I'm not very good at this. But with time, of course. Oh, I remember from HTA, and I reached out to him because I'm not only going to be buying some of his product, but I also asked to get him on the show. So I'm going to figure out how I can get some podcasts, virtual sort of meeting recording software. I believe Riverside is the optimal option. So I'm going to be looking into that. Dead Concepts. This dude, it's incredible. He is making plate carriers, cummerbunds, mag pouches, shoulder pads, by hand. He doesn't have a laser cutter. He's not setting it off anywhere. My boy is cutting and sewing this shit by hand. And my God, it looks incredible. And the innovation, I don't want to spoil it too much. I want to talk about it on the show, but I want to make sure that he gives as much love and support and attention as possible whenever I can. Again, I'm not paid for this. It was really, really fucking cool to see. Out of all the tables there, you had night vision, they had raffles and giveaways and everything. This table was the coolest fucking table there. No offense to anyone else. This is just something new, and it was innovation that was it just fascinated me. The cummerbunds and the shoulder pads especially, to me at least, that's what I was drawn to the most. Were very, very cool and very, very interesting. So I'm going to get him on as fast as humanly possible to talk about that. and talk about his background, who he is, where he came from, why he's doing this, what, gave him the idea, and how you can go about purchasing his stuff. Because I'm definitely buying shoulder pads and a cummerbund at least, because again, the product speaks for itself, and the dude seemed very cool in the very short interaction that I had. So Dead Concepts, follow them, look at their product. Very cool stuff, and very excited to hopefully get him on and figure out how a virtual podcast guest works. I can only benefit from that. But anyways, I'll end it here, coming up on a little bit short of an hour. If you haven't watched the Grand Tour, watch it. If you didn't go to HTA this year, go next year. If you have any questions for me about how it was, any of the courses, let me know. Or reach out to any of the instructors or companies that I took classes with. They were all very open and nice and awesome people. But until next time, I will be MIA for a while. I'm hoping to bring my podcast material with me over the next weekend. I am going to Europe, Germany, to help these only female guests on the show move back to the U.S., which is huge news. And out of communist Germany, Russia, or Jesus, not Russia, out of communist Europe, as soon as possible. I'll be there for like a week and a half. I'm hoping to bring some equipment to record, though. That's my goal, at least. But if I'm gone for, again, a week and a half or 2 weeks, that is why. I'll always have my phone, though, so any questions, comments, concerns, reach out. But until next time, stay metal.